Father Moo. Father Moo. Okay, what's up? Thank you for joining me again. I'll turn off the silly echo now. So silly. Here we go. There's a nice massive hall that I'm talking in. Father Moo here. Thank you for tuning in again. You were listening to a little patch there called Berlin Wall, which you probably don't recognize because the internal tempo of the Nord Modular has changed, and now it's way slower than before. Well, we only got 2 streams left before the end of the year. We're going to do 98 today, and 99 will be out very soon. Today I definitely have an idea in mind. I've been sitting on this one for a bit, so I think I'm going to dive right in here. Need a new patch. There we go. Okay, so you may or may not be aware that among the many hardware music devices that I use, one of them is called the Happiness, which is spelled H-A-P-I-N-E-S, mainly because it's supposed to sound like the audio components of an NES game machine. So I thought today, I don't think I'm going to build a strict emulation of the Happiness, especially because it has a lot of drum sounds and are probably more comprehensive in a drum sound source than I can reasonably fit into a Nord Modular patch, but I am going to use some of its ideas as a starting point. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to build a 2-voice synth. The upper or higher pitched voice is going to be a square wave, and the lower pitched voice is going to be a triangle wave, not that one. Same oscillator B, and use a triangle wave. In the Happiness, there are actually 2 square waves and 1 triangle wave to represent 3 voices. The square waves do the melody, and the triangle wave does the bass line, which is typical of many early NES productions. And we're actually going to take this a little bit farther. As much as I love the sound of old video gaming hardware, I notice that my music doesn't really sound like, the theme song to Galaga or something like that. And I guess that's because even if my oscillators are set to something similar that their oscillators are set to, my sequencing is always quite different. But I don't have a problem with that. It's different doesn't mean bad. So I think what I'm going to do today, my plan was to have a switching pattern up here on the top for the square wave oscillators. So I'm going to have 2 sequencers here to handle that. And then for the bass line, I'm going to actually have something totally generative. So I am going to use a note sequencer for that, but I'm going to be mixing it with the output of a clocked random step generator. And all of these will still be semi-generative. The bass line, I guess I'm saying, is more random, and the melody will be more fixed patterns, but it'll be 2 different patterns. And we're still going to be using this magic little module, the key quantizer, to keep everything in tune. So let's... Oh, that's an interesting way of looking at things. Usually I make 2 sequencers, and I was planning to make 2 sequencers and feed 2 key quants. But instead, maybe I'll just make 1 key quantizer and flip between the sequencer that's feeding it. That might be an interesting twist, just to do things differently for once. You can see I've already filled this whole column up here already. So yeah, I think I'm going to have these two feeding into this one key quantizer, and then have this one plus randomness feeding into that key quantizer for the baseline. So that should be the core of our little production today. I never really get tired of generative music. I find it it's the most interesting to listen to, and it's best suited to synthesizers or to modular synthesizers, I believe, probably just because modular gives you those options to mix programmed or fixed sources like the sequencers with random sources like the clocked random step generator. Hardware synths, certainly they can. There's one hardware synth I'd love to own called the Korg Karma, which sort of interacted with the notes you played to generate other patterns. I've never owned that one, and it looks quite complicated, but I'd certainly like to buy one. And the Korg Karma technology was used in other Korg synths later, such as the Kronos and so on. But, well, let's not get too far down that rabbit hole. So here we're patching up the normal voice signal chains here. In fact, I just realized I wanted to put a couple of digitizers in the mix at the end of these chains, since we're going for kind of a Game Boy sound today. So we've got all the elements of my Game Boy sound here, which are as follows. Number 1, use square waves and triangle waves. Number 2, open up the filters. We might bring these down a little bit, but at least to start with, that raw sort of square wave tone gives you something very Game Boy-like. And finally, at the end of your signal chain, drop in a digitizer. In my case, I'm not going to actually reduce the bit rate off, but I am going to mess with the sample rate, which I find you can get a bit of a fuzz and grit of an old Game Boy while still letting the melody through. If you start getting into reducing the bits, you get distortion and real noise that makes it hard to actually hear the melody. So it can be a bit much. So that's pretty much the plan. Oh, we need to build the Switch. So, not the Nintendo Switch, the audio Switch. Little gaming humor for you there. Am I a nerd yet? Yes, I am. So I need a square wave LFO, which as usual, I should actually print out like a cheat sheet instead of constantly guessing the wrong LFO every time. I'm so bad at it. There we go. D. So D is our little, our yes or no response. He switches between the patterns. And we're going to need, which one is that? Is this the one we use? Nope. There's another one we're not really using the way it's supposed to. Yeah, right. Crossfade with modulator. Yeah, I guess we are using it the way it's supposed to be used. So we've cranked the rate of the square wave LFO way the heck down so we can clearly hear one pattern and then clearly hear the other. And then we'll feed the two sequencer outputs into the two inputs. Oh, this should be all the way left, and then when it's in the other state, it'll be all the way right. Okay. Feed the two sequencers in here, set them up with some random notes. And I'm going to put quite a few notes in this key quantizer. We haven't really talked much about the musical theory behind this stuff. I do a lot of work in the major pentatonic scale, which is why F is not down. But I throw in B, which is not technically part of that scale, but which is fine anyway. Although we have this large range, I know from what we discovered before that we're still going to be within an octave here. So we'll send the output of that switch to this input and this one into here. And over here, we have a slightly more simple process. Need a control signal mixer. Where does that live? So I'm mixing together the output of the sequencer with the output of a random source, which I'm going to turn down a little bit because it seemed to help the last time, and feed it in here. So for this one, it might be too much. I'm going to give it C, E, G, and A. But if this turns out to be too... E is the note I'm worried about being in the bass line. If it turns out to be too much, I'll turn the E off. So feed that into the triangle wave. Open up the pitch input. We can go ahead and start wiring up the clocks. So there's 4 pulses per second. Is that tempo? Let's bring the tempo down a little bit more. And send the sync to here. So again, these are 2 16-step patterns. We might mess with the length of them later just to see if that's interesting, but let's leave them on 16 for now. The reset will force them into 16 right now, so if we do mess with the steps, we'll have to unplug that. And the clock finally has to go into the input of clock random step generator 2. And finally the outputs here. I guess it doesn't really matter. These are both playing 16-step patterns, so I'm going to feed that into there. Okay, sounds pretty Game Boyish to me. Let's bring that down a bit. Okay, the pattern just switched. You can see the light on here. Let's wait for it to go off and switch back. That is really slow. There we go. So we're getting a nice Game Boy type sound there. Let's bring the filter down a little bit. It's not too harsh. And the bass line, let's get him going. I have a feeling this pattern is going to be too busy, but let's just see what we get. Oh, the bass line needs to be down an octave, of course. Actually, let's go down 2. Okay. Just stop for a second. Okay, I'm pretty happy with the melody line. I realize that 2 sequencers playing every step of the sequence is a bit much. So let's go ahead. What's our load look like? Well, we're just over 50%, so we're golden so far. Let's go into Event Sequencer. I'm going to try and clean this up a little bit. So I'm going to do the same thing, wire the clock into the same clock, and the reset into the same reset. And, you know what might be an interesting twist? What if we throw in the old clock divider? Man, do I ever love clock dividers. I was getting ready, part of my prep for the January, which is coming up, and I was using the clock divider in my hardware modular, just remembering, man, I sure do love them clock dividers. Oh, this does have a reset right here. Okay, let's do that. It just doesn't feed a reset out. Okay, so it's set to the same thing right now anyways, but let's bring the main voice back in again. Now let's give the some shots on here when the bass will get a chance to play. And run that into the gate instead. It's good. Let's just listen to the bass by itself. Give him the same thing this guy's got. Back a bit of the decay off. What if we sent this to the filter input? It's actually robbing the sound a bit. Now I'm going to undo some of those steps there. What if we tried this? See the distortion you get there? Kind of cool though. Okay, let's bring the other guy back in. Okay, let's experiment with dividing that clock. I think it's okay at that tempo. Let's make another event sequencer, just like the one we made for the bass line, and let's not listen to every step of the 16-step sequence. Maybe that's me getting a little bit lazy, relying on the output of this sequencer for that. I don't like it when I get too lazy. Oh, we got to connect the clock. We're not going to use the divider for this one, just leave it as what it is. I guess I could have used the other channel of this one, but I want to leave the option open to mess with the divider if I do. So let's do this. It's not bad. I'm going to go back up another octave here. I said I was thinking about taking the E out. What if I put the D in? Get it? Sorry. It's good. It's pretty cool. I think I'm gonna just because I can, I'm gonna throw some drums in here. Try and stop me. It might be nice to have a kick that's normal and then a hi-hat that is slightly weirder. Because I liked the fact that we're not on 16 steps for each, but then once you lose that, we lose part of the rhythm, I guess you could say. Let's try clock pattern generator. It's a good old standby. Run the same clock as everybody else. We'll give him 22 steps. And send him to what's going to become a hi-hat. And this is our... Let's just move the yellow cables out of the way. Okay, and the blue cables. There we go. Now we can see stuff. It's funny, that happens on real modulars too. Let's use this as our kick generating line here. Just a simple little boom and a boom boom. And set this to a kick. Oh, I don't have enough. Okay. Okay, let's do this. We're not running short on... We're going to waste some resources here, folks. I can tell you these guys are going to get digitized as well in the spirit of the Game Boy that we're going for here. So plug them into there. Plug 2 drums into here. There's the kick. Get me a cymbal going. Let's just take the sample rate up again. It's not really doing it for me. Let's take this out. Let's just use this channel here. Plug that into the hi-hat instead. It's better. I'm going to steal some velocity from here. Looks like I need to do my trick again. Where are you, buddy? You need a constant. Need another control signal mixer. There it is. Send the velocity. You guys have seen me do this before. Turn this up to 25. Send it in here. Send that into velocity. There we go. What if we add a couple steps? Good, now the hi-hat is pleasantly out of step with everything, but still in time. Decay, as usual, is doing a massive amount of work here. What if we just mess with this? No, it's not better. And now I'm going to go back to my digitizer, see if I can buy a little Game Boy. It's going to affect the hat way more than the kick, actually, at this frequency range. Let's buy this. Cool, you hear those little noisy hats? They're almost like snare kits. Just listen for a sec. That's good. I guess by turning this from 16 to 18 steps, I kind of messed up my original plan of making these be two identical repeating patterns. In fact, that significant change in the tempo will mess them up. But I trust the sound to sound good. Yep, that's the Game Boy world I want to live in. Let's save it. Oh, I believe I made a 98th patch, but I decided not to use that video. So I'm going to make the real 98th patch today. And I'm going to call this Pleasant Game Boy. Well, I did call, sorry, not a Game Boy. Pleasant NES. The other one was the Happy NES. This can be the Pleasant NES, whatever that means. And I'm going to save it in the synth. Okay. Well, we've only got one patch left before we hit 99, and then January will start. So I hope you'll be tuning in for that. I promise to still do lots of Nord Modular streams during that month. I'm not giving it up, so don't get stressed. Don't go anywhere. Don't tune into one of my many competitors who also do this, who do not exist. I'm just kidding. There's actually a couple people who've done these kind of streams. But thank you for joining me as usual. I really appreciate it. Love to see your comments or any suggestions. We will also be updating the archive so that all 99 patches will be available for other Nord Modular users to download for free and use however they want. But for now, let's just take a listen, and I'll be signing off. This is Father Moo. We really appreciate you. See you in the big church.